Hello, my name is Lisa Shea, and this video is part of the series on horror stories, horror authors, horror writers, horror readers, and all things horror. So, in this particular case, we're going to look into Absolution, which is one of my short stories. It is 15 pages long. It's got 3,211 words in it, and this is going to have spoilers, so if you haven't read the story yet and you care about reading the story first, now would be a good time to read it. And if not, we are going to plow ahead. So in one of my previous stories, I talked about the difference between sociopaths and psychopaths, and how psychopaths tend to be charming and get their way through charm and cold calculation, while sociopaths tend to be more full of rage, and they also want to not necessarily hurt others, but get their own way, and they don't care as much about others. They don't have the empathy to worry about how others are going to be impacted by what they do. So I had written a story about a psychopath, and now I am going to write a story about a sociopath. So this sociopath is named Melody, and Melody is feeling like life has passed her by, that she was supposed to be a top-notch singer, and that her mother would support her while her mother was alive, but now her mother has passed away and there's no one to advocate for her anymore, and she's working at this rundown bar. No one appreciates her, no one appreciates that she used to have talent when she was young and popular, and now she's older, so people don't appreciate her that much anymore. And the Casbar, the bar in question, has just fired her, so now she's really upset. It's the middle of October, it's late at night, everything's slippery and rainy and icy, and she's just furious. The world is not treating her well. So her mother was sick from lung cancer, and Melody has a younger sister, Kimmy, and Kimmy's been the one who's watching over the mother the entire time. So Melody sort of swung in and out on holidays and then yelled at Kimmy for not doing a good enough job, but Melody never bothered to have time to go and actually help to take care of her mother. So then, when her mother passed away, the house got left to the younger sister, Kimmy, who had been sitting there taking care of the mother, and Melody thinks that that's unfair, that they should have split everything 50-50, even though she didn't do anything at all, and Kimmy did all the work in taking care of her mother. So now she's not going to get to have a music career that she's always wanted. She doesn't have her job. Who knows what's going to happen to her, so she's just full of rage and unhappiness. So she even goes off commenting about Elvis had stolen the melody for It's Now or Never, and how the song is about pressuring a girl into having sex when he doesn't even have he's not even saying that I'm going to marry you or I'm going to come back to the war and we're going to be together. All he's saying is, I just want you to have sex with me because I want it. So she's just angry at the world, she's angry at music, she's angry at her sister for taking her money that she was owed, and then all of a sudden she realizes that she actually misses her sister in here somewhere. And she pushes that down and says, well, if I'm going to talk to my sister, it's only because my sister has this money and I clearly don't have money anymore, so I need to be able to somehow finagle money out of my sister so that I can pay my bills again. So she goes grabbing for her phone, and her focus is just on how to best use her sister to get money out of her, and she ends up crashing headlong into another car, which happened to have a mother and daughter in it. So she wakes up in the hospital, and her sister's there. And her sister's talking to a nurse, and it turns out that the Melody's body was very damaged from this car accident she was in, but that they think that the brain is permanently damaged and that she is now a vegetable. And I'll say at the end. So, so Melody is inside, and this is locked-in syndrome, where she's in there, but she can't communicate in any way. She can't speak or move her body or in any way show that she's aware inside her brain. And they're talking about her being an organ donor and donating her body parts, and Melody is very upset because she wants to get out, and it's a pretty legitimate thing. If she's still alive and aware inside there, she wants to live her life. And she realizes that she didn't even know that her sister had a husband, she didn't realize she had kids or any of that, but she's mostly upset that they're just sitting there talking fairly calmly about what to do with the body parts of a vegetable when she feels that she is not a vegetable. And her sister does try to say, well, I think that my older sister is reacting to me, and the nurse says, no, this is just normal flinch reactions, it's not an actual sign of awareness inside there. So Melody doesn't care that she's hurt other people on the road, and she doesn't care really about anything, and she wants to not be killed, which, you know, is a fair thing to want. And she ends up getting her just rewards, one could say, for all the things that she's done to people in life, where they bring her into the harvesting room and they sit there and they slowly and methodically take away all her body parts, cutting them out of her while she can still feel all the pain and she can still be aware of what is happening to her. So part of this plays on my interest between the different kinds of sociopaths and psychopaths and how they react to the world and how they tend to see the world. Part of this goes back again to a theme that's in many of my stories, which is the lack of a voice and being unable to communicate. And even a person in this condition, where you could say that she's done a lot of harm to the world, you know, she's still in a situation which is pretty horrific, and she should be able to speak out for herself, and she can't. And her sister sort of tries to speak out for her as best she can, but even in the end, the main character, Melody, is unable to speak for herself and to express her concerns about it. And the other part of this is one that I have mixed emotions about, and that's the organ donor situation. I am avidly an organ donor. I definitely want to donate all my organs that I can, and I avidly want other people to be organ donors. But I do also understand that there's a situation that can happen, very, very rare, and it should not stop anyone from being an organ donor. But what if they are preparing to harvest your organs and you really are in there? Because a friend of mine, Dean Mahan, wrote a whole story called The Ride, which I recommend if you haven't read it, where he was put into the ICU because he had a disease, and they put him into an induced coma, and they thought that he couldn't feel anything or hear anything while he was in there, but he could feel things, and when he woke up from the coma, he was able to tell them different kinds of things that were happening to him because he could feel it happening. So I think a lot of times in medical science we assume people can't feel things or they can't hear things, and they actually can, and we have to be more aware of that when we're doing procedures on people. So part of it is that sort of thought. I was a little concerned about writing this story because I would never want to put anyone off of organ donation. I think that we should donate organs because it's pretty sad in our modern time that we have people dying because they can't get organs, and then we have people who have perfectly good organs that are just being put into the ground because of various reasons. So I think that we should all be donating organs to make the best use of our body parts once we are no longer needing them. So it's a mixed concern here, that I like the topic of the story and it's something that I definitely wanted to write about, but I also want to make sure that people who read it don't then get put off of organ donation because they think this could actually happen when the chance of it happening is so teeny compared to the actual lives that you can save that it shouldn't be a concern. So those are the different thoughts I had in writing about this, and also being involved in bands for many, many decades now, the whole thought that the club scene does tend to reward young singers, and when singers get past a certain age and don't look hot or sexy anymore, it tends to chew them out and spit them out, and that's distressing too, that someone could still be a really powerful, good singer and they're just passed along for the next young people who come along. So that's in there too. So I think she has some justification for turning so bitter, but certainly not as unempathetic as she ends up being in the end. So let me know if you have any questions about the story, if you've written similar stories. Let me know if you have any feedback in general on the story or on my presentations in general so I could do them better going forward. And let me know what stories you're working on. So please like and subscribe to the video, and I hope to talk with you sometime soon. Okay, and have a good evening.